The chat went absolutely insane the moment Luke leaned forward and kissed Christopher right there on his live stream for everyone to see. What he didn't expect was how that single kiss would send his follower count exploding from 100,000 to over 700,000 by sunrise, ripping his carefully guarded secret into the open and forcing him to face every fear he had buried for years. Luke sat in his sunlit Los Angeles loft, the glow of 3 monitors reflecting off his messy brown hair and the faint stubble on his jaw. At 28, he had built his Twitch empire on quick humor and clutch plays in the newest open-world shooter, but tonight's charity stream for mental health awareness felt different. Christopher, 30 and steady as ever with his kind green eyes and teacher's patience, had been waiting off-camera like always. 18 months of stolen weekends and whispered promises, and Luke was tired of the hiding. "Hey everyone, before we jump into the raid, there's someone I want you all to meet properly," he said, voice catching only once. Christopher stepped into frame wearing a simple gray hoodie, and without another word Luke pulled him close and pressed their lips together in a soft, deliberate kiss. The screen erupted, heart emojis, shocked caps, donation alerts pinging like fireworks. "Luke has a boyfriend? This is the best thing ever." Christopher pulled back with a shy laugh, cheeks flushed, and waved at the camera. "Hi, I'm Christopher. Nice to finally be official." They ended the stream at 2 a.m., laughing and exhausted, but when Luke checked his phone in the morning the numbers were staggering. 700,000 followers. Clips of the kiss had already hit TikTok and Twitter with millions of views. Christopher handed him coffee in their tiny kitchen, sunlight streaming through the blinds. "You really did it, babe." Luke nodded, but his stomach twisted. He had always been the carefree gamer guy online. Now the world knew the truth. Supportive comments flooded in, but so did the first hateful ones. His heart raced as he scrolled. Christopher wrapped an arm around his waist. "We knew it wouldn't be easy." Luke leaned into the embrace, the warmth grounding him even as notifications kept buzzing. By noon major gaming outlets were calling for interviews, and his inbox overflowed with brand offers. The surge felt like a dream and a nightmare at the same time. He glanced at Christopher, seeing the same mix of pride and worry in his eyes. This was only the beginning. Later that afternoon they walked their usual route along the Venice boardwalk, the Pacific breeze cooling their faces. Fans recognized Luke immediately, some asking for selfies, others whispering congratulations. One teenager in a rainbow shirt hugged Christopher and thanked them both for being visible. Luke smiled through it all, but inside the questions multiplied. What would his conservative parents in rural Texas say? How would his childhood best friend Marcus react? Christopher squeezed his hand. "Whatever comes, we face it together." The words helped, yet Luke couldn't shake the rising tide of anxiety. That night, as they lay in bed with the city lights flickering through the curtains, Luke stared at the ceiling replaying the kiss. He had wanted freedom. Now he wondered if freedom always came with a price. Christopher's steady breathing beside him was the only anchor. Tomorrow the Real storm would hit, but for tonight the follower count kept climbing and the world kept watching. The first call from Texas came at 6 a.m. Sharp, his mother's voice tight with disbelief. Luke had barely slept, the surge in followers still lighting up his phone every few minutes, but hearing, "Son, what on earth did you do on that internet thing?" cracked something inside him he didn't know was fragile. He put the phone on speaker so Christopher could hear. His father's gruff tone followed. "We raised you right. This isn't you." Luke's throat closed. Christopher sat beside him on the edge of the bed, hand on his knee, silent support radiating through the touch. "Mom, Dad, it is me. Christopher's been part of my life for over a year. I'm happy." Silence stretched. His mother finally whispered, "We need time, Luke. This is a lot." The call ended with no goodbyes, just the echo of disappointment. Christopher pulled him into a hug. "They'll come around. Or they won't. Either way, you're not alone." Luke nodded against his shoulder, but the knot in his chest tightened. He had expected backlash from strangers, family cut deeper, By mid-morning, the media frenzy escalated. A popular gaming podcast wanted him on air that afternoon. Christopher called in sick to his high school job, unwilling to leave Luke alone. They drove to the studio together, the Los Angeles traffic giving them time to talk. "I never wanted to force you out of the closet," Christopher said quietly. Luke glanced over. "You didn't. I chose this. For us." At the studio, the host was kind, but the questions dug into every corner. "When did you know? How does it feel to be the face of gay gamers now?" Luke answered honestly, voice steady, while Christopher waited in the green room. The interview clip went viral before they even left the building. Followers hit 800,000. Brands that had ignored him before now offered sponsorships with rainbow logos. Back home that evening, Marcus finally texted, Luke's best friend since middle school, the one who still lived in their Texas hometown. "Dude, wow. Proud of you. Call when you can." Relief flooded Luke, but it was short-lived. His mother sent a long message later. Church friends were asking questions, neighbors staring. "We love you, but we don't understand." Christopher cooked pasta while Luke read it aloud, voice cracking. They ate on the couch, legs tangled, talking through every fear. Christopher shared stories from his own coming out at 22. How his parents eventually accepted him after years of distance. "It takes time, Luke. Some people need longer." Luke rested his head on Christopher's chest, listening to the steady heartbeat. The follower surge brought opportunities, interviews, panels, even a small speaking gig at a local Pride event, but it also brought exhaustion. He scrolled late into the night, reading supportive DMs from young gay gamers who said his kiss gave them courage. Each message chipped away at the guilt. Christopher eventually took the phone away. "Sleep. Tomorrow's another day." As Luke drifted off, the weight of his family's words lingered, but Christopher's arms around him felt like the only certainty in a suddenly very public life. File 3. The first real betrayal hit on a Thursday afternoon when a blurry photo from their private weekend in Big Sur appeared on a gossip site. Marcus swore he hadn't leaked it, but the damage was done. Headlines screamed, "Streamer's secret gay getaway exposed," and the hate comments multiplied overnight. Luke's stomach dropped as he read them aloud to Christopher in their living room. Christopher paced, jaw tight. Who would do this? They had trusted only a handful of people. Luke's mind raced through the list until he remembered Jake, a fellow streamer he had mentored last year. Jake had seemed supportive during the initial reveal, but now the timing felt too convenient. A quick check of Jake's recent streams showed subtle digs. Some people do anything for clout. Luke's hands shook as he blocked him everywhere. The betrayal stung deeper than the hate. Christopher pulled him close. "He's not worth it. We're stronger than this." But the damage spread. Sponsors started emailing cautiously, asking if Luke planned any controversial content. His follower growth slowed for the first time, some unfollowing in protest. That weekend they drove to Christopher's sister's house in Pasadena for a quiet barbecue. Her kids ran around the yard while the adults talked. She hugged Luke tight. "You two are family. Screw the rest." Her support felt like oxygen after days of suffocation. Luke watched Christopher laugh with his niece, the easy affection reminding him why he had taken the risk. Yet the phone kept vibrating, more death threats in DMs, more family silence from Texas. His mother sent a single text, "Praying for you." It hurt worse than silence. Christopher noticed the slump in Luke's shoulders and suggested a walk after dinner. Under the Pasadena streetlights, they talked about boundaries. "We don't owe the world every detail," Christopher said. Luke nodded, but the internal storm raged. Had announcing their love on Livestream been selfish? Had he dragged Christopher into the spotlight unwillingly? Monday brought a small victory. A major LGBTQ organization invited Luke to speak at their youth summit. Christopher encouraged him to go. On stage, voice steady despite trembling hands, Luke shared the story of the kiss and the aftermath. The audience, mostly young queer kids, cheered. One teen told him afterward, "You gave me the courage to tell my parents." The words landed like healing balm. Driving home that night, Christopher rested a hand on Luke's thigh. See? It matters. But back in the loft, the leaked photo comments still burned. Luke deleted the worst ones, then turned off notifications. Christopher made tea and sat with him on the balcony overlooking the city lights. "We'll get through the storm." Luke believed him, yet the betrayal from Jake lingered like a bruise. Growth, he realized, sometimes came from pain. He leaned into Christopher's side, the warmth chasing away the chill of doubt, and for the first time in days he slept without checking his phone. The low point arrived when Luke's biggest sponsor dropped him with a polite email citing brand misalignment. The news hit the same day his father finally called, voice thick with anger. "This lifestyle is costing you everything, son." Luke stood in the kitchen staring at the email while Christopher listened from the doorway, face pale. He hung up on his father for the first time in his life and sank onto the couch. Christopher knelt in front of him. "We'll figure it out. Money isn't everything." But bills loomed and the follower surge, while still high, no longer translated to easy income. Luke canceled 2 paid appearances, the guilt of letting people down mixing with exhaustion. Christopher offered to pick up extra tutoring shifts, but Luke refused. "This is my mess." The argument that followed was their first real fight, quiet, tense words about sacrifice and pride. Christopher finally said, "We're a team, Luke. Let me help carry it." They made up on the living room floor, foreheads pressed together, promising no more hiding from each other. The next morning Luke woke to a text from his mother. "Your father and I are coming to California next month. We want to meet Christopher." The olive branch felt fragile but real. Christopher read it over coffee and smiled softly. "See? Progress." They spent the day planning a simple dinner, practicing what to say. In the afternoon they drove to the beach, walking barefoot in the sand while waves crashed. Luke talked about the sponsor loss and the fear of losing everything he had built. Christopher listened without fixing, just holding his hand. "You're more than your numbers, Luke. You're the man I love." Those words anchored him. That evening Luke went live for the first time since the kiss, not for gaming, but to thank his community honestly. "I lost a sponsor today, but I gained something bigger, honesty." The supportive comments poured in, donations trickling back for his charity. Later, lying in bed with Christopher's head on his chest, Luke traced patterns on his back. The internal crisis had forced him to look at himself clearly. He wasn't just a streamer anymore. He was a man learning to stand in his truth. The follower count still hovered near 800,000, but the real growth was quieter, deeper. Christopher kissed his collarbone. "Proud of you." Luke closed his eyes, the weight of the week lifting slightly. Tomorrow his parents would arrive, and the real test waited. But with Christopher beside him, the future felt possible instead of terrifying. Luke's parents arrived on a rainy Thursday, suitcases in hand and expressions guarded. The dinner started awkward, small talk about flights and weather, but Christopher's calm stories about teaching history slowly thawed the ice. By dessert, Luke's mother asked real questions, voice soft. "How did you two meet?" Christopher answered honestly, and something in her eyes shifted. His father still stayed mostly silent, but he shook Christopher's hand at the door. "Take care of my boy." It wasn't full acceptance, but it was a start. The visit gave Luke courage to accept the Youth Summit speaking offer again, this time with Christopher beside him on stage. They shared their story together, hands linked, and the standing ovation moved them both. Backstage, young fans waited with letters and drawings. One boy said, "You showed me it's okay to be scared and brave at the same time." Luke hugged him, tears threatening. The experience cracked open a new purpose. He started a monthly charity stream focused on LGBTQ youth resources. Followers responded, pushing the count past 900,000 again. Sponsors returned, this time without rainbow-washing demands. Christopher's school held a small assembly where he spoke about visibility, and Luke sat in the audience beaming with pride. Afterward, they celebrated with takeout on their balcony, city lights sparkling below. "We're building something real," Christopher said. Luke nodded, the internal storms finally quieting. He had faced betrayal, lost money, nearly lost family, but gained clarity. His friendship with Marcus deepened through long calls. Even Jake reached out with a half-hearted apology Luke chose to accept for his own peace. Growth wasn't linear, but each step forward felt earned. One quiet Sunday they drove up the coast to a secluded beach. No cameras, no chat, just them. Christopher packed a picnic and they talked about the future. Maybe a bigger place, maybe adopting a dog, definitely more honest streams. Luke watched the waves and realized the Livestream kiss had been the beginning of becoming the man he was always meant to be. Christopher leaned against him, head on his shoulder. "Thank you for choosing us." The simple words filled Luke with warmth that no follower count could match. The journey had tested them, but it had also forged them stronger. Months later, the world looked different. Luke's streams now mixed gaming with open conversations about mental health and identity. The follower count stabilized at over 1 million, but the real victory was the quiet life they had carved out. Christopher had received a promotion at school, and Luke's parents visited again, this time bringing homemade pie and tentative hugs for Christopher. The betrayal scars had faded, replaced by new friendships in the community. They stood on the same Venice boardwalk where fans once recognized them, now just two men holding hands under the golden California sun. Christopher pulled Luke close and kissed him softly, no cameras rolling. "Ready for whatever comes next?" Luke smiled, the peace inside him steady and sure. The emotional journey, from terror to triumph, had reshaped them both. He had sacrificed privacy but gained authenticity. He had faced prejudice but found deeper love. The man who once hid now walked openly, and the world was better for it. As they turned toward home, the ocean breeze carrying salt and possibility, Luke felt grateful for every hard step. Their story wasn't perfect, but it was theirs, raw, real, and finally free. True or false? Publicly announcing your boyfriend on a live stream always leads to lasting happiness despite the risks?